Hell yeah, I'm in for that. All right, let's rock and roll. Hello, Matthew, and welcome into the Section 109 podcast, listeners and viewers. My name is Breezy. I'm joined by Matthew. And Matthew, I have a really, really, really big hot take.
I really wish that Matthew was the drinking game for today's episode.
It might be. We don't set the drinking games.
I mean, I only have coffee. I'm going to go get a Chattahoochee. You're going to keep this up.
There you go. You want my super big hot take?
Give it to me.
It's a pretty incredible hot take.
Okay.
Winning is better than losing.
That's true. Although I really wouldn't know what that feels like.
2 undefeated teams.
Wild.
It's weird. But we're going to talk first about our women who played 2 games this weekend. A 2-2 draw in Knoxville on Friday and a 3-0 win. I had to think through those since there was 3 games this weekend on Sunday in Atlanta. Matthew, give me your first quick thoughts. How are you feeling?
Let's do a little housekeeping first.
Okay.
We're going to break. We've done previously.
I thought you were saying we're going to break news.
No.
I was like, what news are we breaking? What did I miss?
We're splitting. Normally, we've been splitting episodes. Each game gets its own episode. We're going to do the 2 women's games this weekend in one episode, this one right here. And we will do the next episode that you will hear from us will be the men's recap. So a little bit of housekeeping.
We're going to see how we like it. I think that's the right move. 2 games, 1 weekend. Might as well do them both in the same one.
Because I honestly, and I'll just go straight into it. Like, I think both games need to be viewed in kind of in totality.
I could not agree more. They're very interlaced and interwoven.
So
it's almost like 180-minute game.
In
some ways.
Yeah. So you've got the Knoxville game, which is a lot like the Nashville game in some respects. Knoxville's a very good team. Right after our game, they went out and they went on the road, I think, and drew Charlotte Eagles, who are an incredibly good team historically and probably this summer as well. I think that speaks to the quality of Knoxville's team. And they've got some great players and some really good pedigrees and things like that. And I thought we played. I certainly think that Knoxville was. I feel like Knoxville would end up feeling hard done by a draw with us. But I really liked how we played them. I thought that we were committed to playing kind of our kind of football. We were committed to playing with possession. We were committed to playing on the ground. And we were able, once we got through like the initial 5 minutes were rough. We almost gave up a real bad chance early. Once we got through that period and grew into the game, I thought we were pretty good. Now, it didn't ultimately end up in anything, and truthfully, I don't think we had as many shots as I would have wanted, and especially not any high percentage looks.
It's wonderful that
which may be the story of the season.
It's the story of the last 4 seasons. As soon as we started doing this podcast, it was like, we're not getting enough shots. Has been the consistent refrain from Matthew, which is not fully incorrect either. It is actually tough to get enough shots to feel good because you want to generate a lot of good chances. Yeah. And in order to generate good chances, there need to be shots involved.
Yeah. So, but I liked a lot of the movement. I liked a lot of the of the way we built up, the way we structured the attacks. I thought the quality was sometimes a little bit lacking with that final ball, with maybe that second to last ball.
That felt like sharpness to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The problem is when you're not like fully tip top sharp, your season's gonna fly by, and
sure.
And like the margins can be pretty tiny on how games turn, and we actually see this in the Knoxville game. And I think the Atlanta game follows a similar format, especially in the first half. But for large portions of the second half as well. Like we didn't, or with some of the football we played was really, really good. And it would just break down at one portion. But the way we were able to control games, the way we were able to play through pressure, our ability to find the open girl and have that player turn and progress with the pass or progress with the dribble was really, really good. So there's a lot to like. In the Knoxville game, aside from not being able to generate enough shots for me, Our set piece and our general aerial defending was tough, but also like Knoxville had a bunch of really tall players. Like there was a serious like height advantage that that they were able to take advantage of, and that's just kind of part of it sometimes. It's okay, Mixie. It's okay, buddy. So like I thought the Knoxville game could be kind of summed up into when the ball was on the ground, we were really running the show. When the ball got in the air, it's where Knoxville's advantage really came in.
And they did a thing.
And I realized that also we scored a header,
yeah.
Like, you know, a big aerial ball.
But they had some. We've talked about this before, but in women's soccer, it's a little bit like men's soccer in the lower divisions in England, as an example. Whereas you have teams that play, you know, good soccer or whatever else, and then you have some teams that just play very direct and lump it over the top, and that's a very valid. It's a very valid strategy. Not at the highest levels of soccer in men's soccer in the world. Generally speaking, you don't just kick it forward to. I mean, there's just a handful of players in the world. But the lower down the kind of like totem pole you go, and this is, you know, amateur soccer, if you can have a player that's faster and you have a speed advantage, lumping it over the top is a very valid way. And in women's soccer for a long time, that is one of the valid avenues for scoring. Is if you have, look, we've done it to Summer Hernandez in past iterations of this when she was Summer Lanter.
Yeah.
If you can kick it over the top to somebody who's fast, and get into space, they're real tough to stop. And look, Knoxville did that some. They had an out ball and then an immediate over the top, or an out ball that was in the air to another out ball over the top. I mean, these are first-time passes or pretty darn close to first-time passes.
Think about...
And they get the big one-on-one at the end that Caroline saves.
Yeah.
That's not... And this isn't a criticism. This is just a particular strategy they employed and was effective. Thank goodness Caroline was up to it. But it is one of those things that we don't do that.
But we do at times, but it's rarely going over the top to chase and go. Oftentimes, our over the top play is to a forward that's checking down.
Yes, but I am talking about over the top play.
Yeah,
because that is very direct.
I just wanted to draw that distinction.
We do play pretty direct, not all the time. We play pretty direct, and women's soccer in general tends to be pretty direct. But over the top is not a thing that we have. You know, we have one player who's fast and it's summer, and like we're not currently built to play that way. We are a lot more technical than we have been sometimes in the past.
Yeah.
And so playing through teams and then just having a better mentality, spoiler alert, to some of our three things, has led to us being much more dangerous later in games. And yeah, I don't want to get too far off on that, but it's just interesting to see the different approaches in last game, us versus Knoxville.
Yeah.
Let's start out with the Knoxville game, Matthew. Let's give the starting lineup. So the starting lineup was unchanged from our game against Birmingham. For those who might not remember, it's Caroline Johnson in goal, right wing back Bailey Dull, right center back Anna Lanter, center back Avery Catlett, left center back Avery Engels. That is a back line that has been very good. With left wing back / left winger Katie Johnson. I say that because Katie tends to play a little further forward. We saw in this game now, and Bailey also gets up. They both get up and down, but Bailey a little more defending, Katie a little more attacking. And Katie has been a wonderful revelation of this season.
Yeah.
Samantha Maudsley at central defensive midfielder, who I believe has been kind of the unsung hero MVP of the last couple of games. I think she's really grown into that 6 role. I'm not saying she hasn't played the 6, but for us, she's really cemented in that role and gotten better and better, and really like dictated the game offensively and defensively by keeping possession and turning smartly. And then, I'll point out in the Knoxville game, I saw several times that she turned several times one way than the other way and kept her body in the way some of those Knoxville players didn't, who may have been like quote unquote like as good or better players. I'm not saying they were actually better, but like very talented, very skilled players, but were younger, less experienced, and did not have the good body control that she has, that a veteran player has. And you just saw the difference there were about indecision making. And some of those girls got pressed and the ball got taken away, and you just really didn't see that happen for Sam. And then Nadia Ivanchenko at the center midfield spot, Sarah King at the center midfield spot, Summer Hernandez up top with Ava Van Doren also up top with her. So same. On the bench, we had Lucy Sandhoff, Addie Chapman, who did get an appearance, Victoria Grant, who got her
debut.
I would say that thinking about this weekend, she got her second appearance in Atlanta as well. Brianna Hurtado, who also played. Serena Lewis was on the bench but did not play. Brady Livingston was on the bench but did not play. Chrisan St. Louis, finally learned how to say her name. Chrisan St. Louis, although I'm still getting used to it, also definitely got in the game again. And then Sage, who did not play, and Anna Silva, who did not play against Knoxville. Knoxville was a game where we only saw 4 players sub in and out. It was a more tightly contested game, and we didn't make as many subs. All right, Matthew, let's go straight to the goals. So at this point in time, we're down 2-0. One of the goals, roughly 70th minute, comes on, or 65th, 64th, somewhere in there. And I'll make one point out. I'll point one thing out here. We need to improve a little bit in our middle of the second half lull. We did it against Nashville, where we lulled real hard and we conceded those 2 goals. And I don't mean that we were just like we
conceded the second goal against Nashville. The first goal was in the first.
You're right. We should have conceded the third probably against Nashville.
Yeah.
So we have had these like 10 to 20 minute stretches in this middle of the second half for both those games where we have kind of lacked energy, intensity, and sharpness, and that needs to get better. I'm not criticizing because we come back and both times we come in and spoiler alert tie it, and it's good results both of them. So I'm not upset. I just think if we're gonna beat those teams, we can't have that lull. Keep going, Matthew.
Yeah. So Knoxville's first goal comes in roughly the 65th minute. We'll just say comes from a corner. We just don't do an awesome job defending it, and one of their trees is able to head it home. The second goal.
Side note. They have Kentucky, Virginia. They have KV on their. It's not 865 Alliance out of Knoxville, but 865 goes into Kentucky and Virginia as well. So they have K and V on their crest.
Oh, neat.
Losers.
Yeah, whatever. The second goal comes from
can't be a Tennessee football team. Still only one football team in Tennessee anyway.
Nerd. The second goal comes from the run of play. It's just a cross into the box, and same girl who scored the first one is able to get something on the second one, and it trickles in. And then our first goal comes in the 81st minute. There's a corner kick from the left-hand side, and it's sent in, kind of headed out, and Avery Ingalls is on back post, and
You're
runs
forgetting
out,
your favorite part of this goal.
runs out to pick it up.
There we go.
On now close to the right hand side near the corner flag.
She's normally on the left hand side,
and she's able to play it off of the defender for another corner kick. Everyone resets now from the corner from the right side, gets swung in and gets tapped back out, or cleared out or whatever, right to Bailey Dull, who just sets it and then whips it. Well, she loops it's a better term.
Puts it into the danger area. Puts it in the mixer.
She did put it into the mixer, and really the only 2 people that tried to make a challenge on it were the goalkeeper and Avery Ingalls.
And it turns out the goalkeeper's not very tall,
and Avery Ingalls gets there first.
And Avery gets there first, and heads it in. It's not just about being tall; it's timing and it's whatever else.
Yeah.
Because that girl with outstretched arms could have gone over Avery's head, but she doesn't time it well enough.
And Knoxville's defense just
falls asleep.
Didn't react to the play. Got ball watching, and so
I would argue they weren't ball watching.
Well, I think they were ball watching. They just weren't. Their legs weren't moving at the time.
Yeah, there we go.
Avery heads it in, and
I lose my mind, and and we go in.
And at this point in real time,
we get back into the game. At that point,
I'm in some bar in Denver or in Golden, Colorado, and I had turned off the game when we went down 2-0 because the stream, I was having trouble, with whatever, and I was like, well, this is clearly not working. Like, if they start coming back. I can't like mess with this mojo here. And so like I wanted to turn the game on. And I was like, nope, not going to do it. And then like seconds later, I'm, all of a sudden I get a notification like we scored again. It's like, holy shit, what's going on here? Turns out just a nice little bit of attacking play actually. And then the play kind of becomes broken as it gets broken up by Knoxville. Ball kind of then, kind of skirts through, and Croissant gets taken down in the box. And I wasn't sure, like watching the stream this morning on recording day, watching the game, I thought Nadia, like she had the ball in her hand. I thought she was going to take it. And then right at kind of the last minute, she hands it off to Croissant, and Croissant St. Louis scores her 3rd goal in 3 games. And
we call her one goal a game Louis.
That's good.
I just made that up right now, but we just start calling her that because she's scoring a goal every game.
Something interesting about the rest of this game, Knoxville had their chances to win it. We kind of had a couple half-ish chances towards the end. The game got real stretched. And it was just interesting on the rewatch because, like, I know the final score and I'm still like, oh, man, like, how is this going to end up? And but it finishes 2-2, and I think it's a really good point away from home against a good team.
So I'll tell you, I know you and I have already spoken about this a little bit today in preparing for this episode, but watching this live in Knoxville, felt like in the first half, and this is why we most of the time rewatched games, but there were 3 this weekend, and I just wasn't going to be able to rewatch all 3. So I've rewatched all the goals, and I did rewatch the men's game, which I saw very little of on the stream, since I saw the 2 women's games live. So rewatching this game, or not rewatching this game, I had a different take on it. But I know you've got a pretty strong opinion on this. But it's why we rewatch. I felt like in the first half, we were unlucky not to be up a goal. And I felt like in the second half, we basically had squandered our chances in the first half, and we kind of got our 2 goals in the second half that we deserved in the first half. But I think you feel like that may be a little bit unfair, maybe unfairly critical of the second half and unfairly positive about the second half.
Yeah. I don't. I think when you look at like the goals that we conceded, I think we could do better on both of them. Frankly, those 2 are not goals I really want to give up. You don't want to give up a goal ever, but like those are the types of goals where I think we could do better and we could prevent from happening. That being said, like whether it's in about 4 minutes in, there's a turnover playing out of the back that Knoxville just puts wide, golden opportunity for them squandered. There's one kind of on a counterattack that they get centered, and the ball's bouncing a little bit. It's like a half volley or whatever, and like she's basically center of the box, like just puts the thing wide. Like those are big chances.
Those were in the first 5 minutes, right?
The other one was like almost directly midway in the first half. Kind of the counterattack. I think those are massive chances, and it's just way bigger than anything we created. And it's why I feel like on the balance of the chances created, that I think if you're Knoxville, you feel actually hard done by the first half, which is directly against how you were feeling about the first half. But
and I thought a little bit more about that, and here's what I think happened. I walked into the game. We were late-ish coming in. I couldn't get the ticket to work at the front, and they kicked off right on time, surprisingly. And honestly, by the way, 865, great stream.
Yeah.
Decent venue. They had a little merch table, and I'm not saying little to demean it. It was just actually not a very big table. And they had a 2 little concessions, or 1 concession line with kids running it, but like doing it with an adult supervisor. They did a great job. It was a great experience. Other than not having beer, it was a really solid experience, and then the one guy trying to fight us, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I kudos to 865. It is for a brand new or new-ish, because I mean they kind of like took over some whatevers. 865 Alliance became an NPSL team, a WPSL team, and they're trying to do a thing. We went to a brewery. I don't think of what it was called. A brewery is a pregame bar, and that brewery had a beer named after them. It's not revolutionary anymore, but it's cool. It had schedules up in there. It had a flag up in there. I don't think anybody but us was there for the game, but that was neat. And then going to the game, it was a solid experience. I saw some replays on the stream that didn't look like they had many people, but I felt like there was a decent chunk of people there. So anyway, it's a good start. It's a lot better than the average WPSL team. It's quite frankly as good or better than the average NPSL team.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed, and I expect, assuming that the money doesn't run out for some reason, and that because that's always an issue with amateur and professional soccer, they will develop potentially into a real rival of ours, trying to do things right, because they definitely had a lot of homegrown talent. They had a facility that didn't suck. They had a production that had some money into it and it cared about it. So I was very, very happy to see that.
I was extremely worried about the 2 streams, well, really all 3 streams this weekend.
Well, yeah, I wasn't worried a few weeks ago about Nisa streams, but fuck you, Rochester.
Let's keep it on. Let's keep it on point here.
But yeah,
I was worried about both of the streams. Not being able to watch the games live. Like I want to make sure that we're keeping good stats for the women's team, just like I do for the men. And I was pleasantly surprised with both of them. Like now the one for Atlanta Fire did not have a commentator. but like it had noise, and all the soundtrack of that game was the Chatahooligans, which was great.
Oh, I also watched,
but like it worked. It had no issues with buffering.
I also watched.
It was frankly a lot cleaner than most NISA streams I've seen.
And look, the Knoxville, and I haven't seen the only replays, by the way, of the Atlanta. And I know we got to get moving here, but the only replays of the Atlanta game that I've seen are from Instagram, because they're like screen recordings. I could not find. I did not go into 11 and watch them. I watched them on the computer on my Mac, but they were lovely. I could not see the quality of the stream. I can say that Knoxville's had a real score bug and a real thing. And then I watched the Charlotte Eagles. Spoiler alert if you didn't know that result. The only way to find it was to watch the stream. So I watched a good chunk of this Charlotte Eagles stream, and they also have no announcer. And they've been doing this a while. They have a men's stream. They have a men's team. They've got a SportsCenter top 10. They've won a national title in the PDL. So they could have a better thing, but they also only had a camera and no score bug and no announcer of any kind. That being said, if you got a stream and it doesn't buffer, I'd like you to have a score bug, but I don't care about the announcer.
But honestly,
I just need it not to buffer. And neither the Charlotte Eagles stream that I watched most of did not buffer at any point that I saw.
The Atlanta Fire one did not buffer. The 865 one did not buffer.
That's progress. And you know who could learn from that?
NISA.
Rochester. Anyway.
I think so. Like, Atlanta Fires did not have a score bug in it, but what it did have was like
the scoreboard
regularly.
Was in view.
The scoreboard was in view.
That was the same for the Charlotte Eagles.
It was good enough. It was fine.
So kudos to Atlanta. And look, Atlanta did not have a bad setup. Oh, there were ball kids at the Knoxville game as well.
Nice.
And walkout kids as well.
So
full walkout kids for both teams.
Let's finish Knoxville.
When was the last time you went to a WPSL or NPSL team that had full walkout kids? That's pretty solid. Yeah, let's finish up.
Let's finish up Knoxville here, because and I do think your comment about a potential rivalry is interesting. Also, like FC Alliance is the youth academy in Knoxville that 865 Alliance is over top of, kind of like the top level team for that academy. And what's interesting is FC Alliance is a CFC Academy partner.
But I think it might be just on the men's side.
Well, no, because Brady Livingston is from Knoxville, and she's coming down for CFC Academy stuff.
Interesting. I don't know that. I'm not sure.
If you're listening to this and you know actually what's going on here, let us know, because I'm curious about that. Like, it's just interesting to me how all this works. On the Knoxville front, the game. We've talked about some of these things.
Yeah, I'm just going through the list, making sure we talk about what we.
Oh, let's go to kind of the last one here. I hope Caroline's okay. So I did not know that. I just figured like her not starting against Atlanta Fire was just general rotation, and
it was not.
And she took a fucking shot at the end of that game.
The bruise was pretty gnarly. She was wearing shorts as one would normally do, and you could see on her leg, like mid thigh, or it was like a gnarly ass bruise. So she took quite the kick, or what knee or whatever hit her.
Yeah. So I hope she's okay. Also, she got a yellow card in that play, and I can't figure out how.
Well,
because that's a yellow going the other way.
It's a red going the other way. We were chanting red card.
I figured you would upgrade that. It's a yellow going the other way. Like she clearly wins the ball.
It's clearly a dirty tackle, Matthew, and that referee should be suspended for a game until he gets his refereeing together.
I mean, if every time that if we said that about WPSL referees. So yeah, I think overall it's a good point. It's a tough opponent. They're gonna be some in this conference, in the way our schedule falls, playing Nashville twice, playing Knoxville twice, playing Women's Football Club of Charlotte. Like, they're gonna be some real tough opponents, and I think as we lead into the Atlanta Fire game that was on Sunday night.
Yeah, you want me to talk to the
almost. I just think it's like when you have the teams that have the caliber of players of Nashville and a Knoxville, and eventually Women's Football Club of Charlotte later down the line. That's why a game like Sunday, like the Atlanta Fire game, is so important to pick up 3 points. Because they were a decent team. They were not at the level of a Nashville or a Knoxville, I don't think, but they were decent. Like, they had some decent players. being in the Atlanta metro area, like it just allows you to have access to all kinds of players that need a place to get some fitness in the summer. And they weren't bad. You could tell it was their first game a little bit, but like they weren't bad. And it's so critical that because of the way the WPSL is set up this year, you need to pick up 3 points in these games. And a game like this is massively critical to pick up 3 points in. And that's why I'm so happy and proud of the girls for that performance, which I had gotten back maybe an hour before, maybe 2 hours before that game kicked off. And so I was able to watch it live. And it was a really good performance. Let's go through the lineup first, and then we'll talk about it.
Brooke Alvarez got the starting goal. The aforementioned Caroline Johnson being out. I also think it's nice for Brooke to get a shot, right? Like, she's a good player, and she deserved to get a shot. So it's not good for Caroline to get hurt. What is good is that we have a quality backup that since she did get hurt, we were able to fill in that spot, and the pressure wasn't on Caroline to maybe play and potentially hurt herself worse or be in a rough spot. So love that. Right wing back, Anna Silva. That's great. That's a rotation from the other game. Right center back, Bailey Dole. Hello, Bailey Dole, center back. I thought she did a lot of running and played quite well defensively, spoiler alert. Avery Catlett at center back, and that is Lucio Avery Catlett, the marauding
we'll get
Brazilian-esque defender.
We'll get to that.
I can't even get through this without saying that. Left center back, Anna Lancer, moving over to the left side, and left wing back, Ava Van Doren, something that we saw in the Nashville game. Central defensive midfielder, Samantha Maudsley, center midfielder, Nadia Ivanchenko, and center midfielder, Sarah King. So the midfield remained unchanged, but we had some rotation in defense. And then forward, Summer Hernandez, and forward, Cresson St. Louis. So some rotation there. We had
3 players moved out. Caroline Johnson gets the night off. Avery Ingalls gets the night off. Katie Johnson went to the bench to be available as a sub, with Brooke Alvarez coming in.
And she didn't come in. Katie didn't come in until very late in the game, I felt
correct.
Which was good because I would assume, I don't know this, but I would assume that these players were very tired after playing Friday and then playing again Sunday.
Yeah.
So very nice that they could get a little break.
So Alvarez coming in, Anna Silva coming in, and Cresson St. Louis coming in.
And then we had
and also moving Ava Van Doren to wing back, moving Bailey Dole to right center back. There was a lot of movement happening for the second game.
So goalkeeper Lucy Sandoff was again on the bench with Caroline in the stands with us. In fact, she did the keeping of stats for this game for Matthew on the first draft.
Thank you, Caroline.
Grace Barker Roberts, who got an appearance. By the way, I missed that. I'm sorry, Grace. I didn't realize she got in there at the end of the game. I must have been too busy singing the SpongeBob song about the goalkeeper in the second half and celebrating the goals.
Happy debut day.
Happy debut day. Lupe Diaz got in again. Victoria Grant got in again. Brianna Hurtado got in again. Katie Johnson got in again. Serena Lewis got her debut.
Happy debut day.
Sage got in as well, and Emma Webster got in again, but Emma played the end of one of the other games.
Yeah.
So it was not her debut. Goals. So you don't have the minutes written down for this.
Yeah, I don't.
But here's the thing. I want to start with this for the Atlanta game and reflecting back on our season so far. So we are 4 games in. Birmingham, I'm going to take out a little bit because Birmingham was Birmingham. In the 3 games against tough opponents, we don't start scoring until midway through the second half. And really, it's later on in the second half. And I have a theory, Matthew, and I wonder how you feel about this. I know we have an older team than a lot of these teams. You can see it on the field. Some of these are academy level teams where they are 17, 18, 19, 16, 17, 18, 19. Some of our players, Summer Hernandez is 28. Multiple of our players are in their early to mid 20s. I don't know how old Kaylee Burrell and Anna Lancer are, but I think that they're both in the 24, 25 range. 23 to 25, somewhere in there. I don't know how old Avery Ingalls is, but she just did she did all of her college and then did a graduate year. So I'm just pointing out we have some, and then we have a bunch of other players as well that are seniors or juniors, or Katie Johnson, who just did her, I believe she just did her last year of eligibility, potentially as a graduate student. I say all of this to say, it's very interesting to me, the age difference and therefore kind of the difference in performance at the end of games. I think what's going on is this. And we used to see this in the Open Cup with the men when we were an amateur team, and we've heard professionals talk about it in the Open Cup. Your more professional teams tend to be much more similar to the amateur teams until like the 70th minute or so, and then the real pros, quote unquote, kind of come out. And we used to see that even with CFC, where we would be winning sometimes, including I'm remembering against the Harrisburg City Islanders,
several open cups
where we were winning until late and somebody came back and beat us in the end, right? I think something you see in these games is that these younger, quote unquote, and forgive the term, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, amateur teams, more amateur players that don't have the experience, maybe they get a couple good plays early and they get a goal or two, or maybe they're even the better team potentially for part of the game. But our girls for this year, our players, seem to me to be more mature, and they definitely have some of a never stay, die, never quit attitude. That means towards the end of these games, they're not fading. They're either getting stronger or the other team is fading and they're staying the same and they're coming back. And that is such a weapon. And it has been this year. You look at when we're scoring our goals, we're just wearing down the other team sometimes weathering the storm, sometimes whatever. But we're the ones that are the protagonists at the end of every single game, including against Nashville.
Yeah.
We've been the protagonists, and I think that comes from having a more experienced team that's played more years in college, more years potentially in the WPSL or W League, and depending on where these players have played. But I really like that. I'm very happy about it, and it was one of my key things that I want to talk about today, which is this. It's not just the heart attack kids that come back, but it's the just we're gonna score on you eventually. And it might take us a while, but we're gonna bend. We might break a couple times, but we're gonna get you.
So yeah, I agree with really all of that.
And if you crumble in the 70th minute, like we're gonna hit a couple.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something to be said about that, especially given, like the Nashville comeback comes on. Truthfully, just 2 plays where Nashville's not totally switched on. And one being an attack and one being from a set piece. The Knoxville game comeback is, a set piece and a bit of a broken play that we just stick with to get those 2 goals. And I think in this Atlanta game, there weren't enough shots created from the run of play for my taste. But what we did do is we kept pressure on. We kept, working to create stuff. And while it wasn't always coming off, what did end up happening is we started to create enough waves of pressure where it's like I think Murphy's Law applies in women's soccer more than it does in men's soccer. Like women's amateur soccer compared to men's professional soccer. And that is, Murphy's Law doesn't say something bad's going to happen. It says anything that can happen or something like that. Something like, you know what I mean?
It's a wonderful analogy. Keep going.
And I just think like the possibility of anything happening in the WPSL is very true to me. Like the average height of CFC women is what, like 5'6", maybe 5'7", probably like 5'6", 5'5".
I have no idea. I will point out that the disparity in height is big because we are much bigger than we were last year, but we still have players who are not tall as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Lupe is like 4'10", 5 foot at most,
and also like brilliant technically.
Yeah. And then Avery Ingles is 6 foot. So like you just like anywhere between it's 12 inches.
But like we have an entire back line and goalkeeper on the men's side that is, JP is the shortest at 5'10". You've got, I think Aiden Bowers is like 6'1". Anatoly is like 6'5", Colin Stripling 6'2", Jean Antoine's 6'3", 6'4". Whereas on the women's side, Avery's 6 foot, but then there's Catlett's 5'9", Anna's like 5'8", 5'9". In this game, Bailey Dole's probably, is she shorter than that? Like 5'6"? Like
5'5",
okay.
6. I'm sorry, Anna. Matt's gonna give you. I
gave you like 4 inches there.
I know she's not 5'9".
So you're dealing with like just different physical profiles, and that's why it's a different game. Truthfully, it's like women's soccer and men's soccer are just different games, and I think people need to remember to evaluate them through those lenses.
Absolutely.
But like anything can happen. Like the ball often it squirms off people's foots. It goes all over the place, and like you have to be ready for like just weird bounces, especially if you're playing on turf, because 1 second it's the ball's one place and the other it's off in a completely different place. And I think our mentality and toughness and ability to constantly be prepared for whatever might happen is number one, helping us come back in some of these games against teams that may be better than us, but maybe not that much better than us, but like maybe, or have like higher profile.
I would argue they
or bigger and better CVs on their players.
I would argue that the scorelines demonstrate that Nashville was the only team that was significantly better than us because they got unlucky not to win. Because they had some bigger chances. Knoxville wasn't that much better than us. They crumbled at a time where we went and
I think they
couldn't finish their chances.
I think that's some inexperience from them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think the inexperience does kind of right things.
But going in and heading into our goals from the Atlanta game, like just the ability that our team has to be tough and to stick with it, and even though they weren't crazy sharp, to like we started providing waves of pressure, where if we weren't getting. We may not. We're getting a good shot opportunity, although we took some shots.
I want to finish up your height conversation. The reason height matters so much because there's such a disparity that you can have weird matchups and weird things happen with a large. I don't know if you finished that, but like with a small player against a much taller player, you don't have those big of disparities normally in the men's game. So like the unpredictability, if you get a 6 foot tall player on a 5'4" player, and suddenly you have this big advantage that at any point could happen and you could score, is very, very different.
I guess the Avery Ingles header versus the Knoxville's keeper, who was might be down 4, 5, 6 inches compared to Avery, like that kind of opportunity does not happen in the men's game very often.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to button that up. So
that's good.
I felt like we talked about heights and then didn't say why.
That's fair enough. But I guess where I'm going with this is like we were providing waves of pressure and we were providing a few shots, although they were mostly taking some chances like we saw in the Birmingham game, and this eventually did pay off. Because we get and this is probably, I don't know, it was like 70th minute or so, somewhere in there. We get a free kick opportunity, and Nadia puts a ball into the box. That we've kind of loaded up the box too.
Yeah, we started getting more and more players forward. We were pushing for a goal, but it just wasn't happening.
It was the waves of pressure. Nadia puts the ball into the box. It's cleared out, and she just like collects it, and takes a touch in front of her. And then just lets an absolute fucking cannon fly directly into the top corner.
In the words of Mr. Gabriel Schrey, sorry, Gabe, if you're listening.
He finds the twine.
No, she finds the twine, first of all. And second of all, it was a howitzer.
Yeah, it was a howitzer.
It was a howitzer.
It was an absolute bomb.
What a shot. What a finish. As a couple of the girls titled things on Instagram, and I could not agree more, it was bangers only. We only score bangers something like that.
It was absolutely bangers only. And, just brilliant strike. That comes in the 70th minute on the money.
And so she hits that goal. And then Samantha Mosley did not want to be outdone. And while it was a little bit different play, it was from a little bit further over, left-footed free kick a few minutes later.
78th minute, I thought for sure, Nadia had taken several free kicks to this point in time.
Yeah, I would have bet
all the money.
Mm-hmm.
And she steps over it, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? And then I've never seen...
And Nadia takes so the only other player that's been taking any set pieces other than Nadia is Brianna Hurtado. So but when Bree's on the field, Bree takes some of the set pieces, and Bree's delivery has been fantastic, but it's those two players. And then, Samantha. So, by the way, I didn't remember that Samantha's was a free kick because I was so surprised that Samantha took the free kick. Later on, I thought that Nadia. I had them switched in my head because I'm like, surely Nadia took the free kick that she scored, and surely Samantha got the run of play. No, it was the opposite.
And she hits it with her left foot.
Samantha Mosley might be left-footed.
I mean.
I don't remember. I need to go back and remember from our research.
Listen, if you watch that goal again,
she's left-footed.
She's left-footed now.
Golly, dude, what a monstrous two goals!
Strike.
And then Chrisan was not going to leave this game, as she never does, without getting a goal.
Yeah, she's going to score.
But she scored against Birmingham, right?
She scored a goal in every game.
Yeah,
it's one goal in every game this season.
One game in every game. So she made sure, and that was the wonderful goal, which
the 83rd minute,
which you talked about a little bit. Which, and I don't know if it was on the podcast or right before, but ball gets put in from the left side.
Yeah, so this is Katie Johnson, who's been subbed on at this point for the last maybe 10 minutes of the game.
By the way, I was worried that KD might have actually been hurt. And the reason I was worried about that is because she hadn't come on yet, and we weren't winning yet. It was like the 70th minute, and I was like, "Oh no, does she have like a?" I mean, I saw her on the bench, but maybe she's got a little injury, and maybe it's also possible she did. But she came on after that. She played like the rest of the game. She seemed fine. But yeah, it was wonderful when she came in because she provided that going against tired legs. Woof.
Yeah, so she gets the ball on the left hand side, and she splits two defenders, plays the ball in behind for Summer. So Summer like runs onto it and then plays the ball with her left foot across the box, and right to Cresson St. Louis.
Also, side note, can we? I know I'm interrupting. I apologize. The Knoxville game, KD took so many kicks, so many hits, so many ridiculous. That referee can go fuck himself. There was about 4 yellow card challenges in like 6 possessions or something on her, and not one of them was called. We talked about this in another episode. Like attempted murder is legal in women's soccer. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gotta stop.
The level of physicality is stupid. And I realize they're a little bit different games. You just said that, but like the things that defenders are able to get away with on attackers is absolutely crazy. And like the risk of injury is there, and like it's just stupid. And I mean, I saw her get frustrated in that game, and I just want to put it out there. I noticed. I think everybody noticed. It was ridiculous, and like I'm glad she did. She kept her head. She did not lose her cool. But like she got absolutely just like they just resorted to fouling. It was like hack-a-shack, except they weren't calling the foul, so it was just like free reign. Just hit the player or pull the player, or push the player, or kick the player because the player's not going to get a foul called on. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, keep going with her cutting and giving the ball to Summer. Sorry, I got mad again.
So she collects the ball, just like plays it in between 2 players for Summer. Really, really great ball. The kind of thing that I think we've been missing in terms of when I talked about not having that final pass or not having that pass before the pass. That was a brilliant pass before the pass, and then Summer runs onto it, completes the move by putting in a good ball with her left foot across the face of goal, and Cresson St. Louis there heads it home. 83rd minute, it's 3-0. And that, by the way, is the 14th goal in 4 games for the CFC women. I realize that half of those goals came against FC Birmingham, but let's ignore that part. Because more interestingly, that is the first hockey assist of the summer.
That is crazy. From Summer.
Okay,
so I want to go back to 1 second.
And I think my point of mentioning the hockey assist thing is that goal right there is something that I've been waiting for.
So explain what a hockey assist is for anyone who might not know, and then explain why you think, because I know where you're going with this, but also you and I talked about this earlier before we started recording. Like, why is that significant?
So like everyone understands, I think, that an assist is like the ball that gets played, the pass that leads to the goal, that leads to the shot. The hockey assist is the pass before the pass. It's the second assist, if you will. And you can create, so like we've got a bunch of unassisted goals, be it from defender turnovers, be it from like Nadia's goal in this game comes
off the deflection, then she hits
unassisted.
A howitzer. Yeah. Great players make great plays, so unassisted goals are not completely out of the realm.
No, they're a part of it. You get an assist if you cross a ball and a player scores. Cresson St. Louis' second goal against Nashville, or Summers' goal. One of Summers' goals against FC Birmingham come from corner kicks, like that. You get assists for those. You get assists for goals if you make one pass. But what we had not seen this season yet is, and actually we have. It was just a kind of a 2-woman game, so you can't, if you score a goal, you don't get credit for the hockey assist as well. So this is like the first goal against Nashville. But what I hadn't seen yet is 3 players be involved.
And the hockey assist is the pass before the assist. So it's similar to in basketball. If you're more familiar with basketball, the assister is the one who passes it straight to the player. But if I pass it to you and then you pass it to Smitty and Smitty dunks the ball on the alley-oop, that's the assist to you. It would be, if basketball counted them, a hockey assist, as we call them, because they do that in hockey as well, and they do it in MLS as well. That's the pass before the pass. And longtime listeners of this show will know that you love hockey assists.
Yeah, so I just think it matters because it's the first time this season that we've seen
sustained build-up.
3 players be involved in a single goal. and
there'd be no deflection, no nothing.
Well, and I guess my point is, we've been missing a lot of, like I want to see more shots and I want to see more chance creation, and I think we've not been quite sharp enough in the flow of play. We've been able to create some goals through set pieces. We've been able to create some goals through some tenacity and just being in the right place at the right time, and that's good. And you need that. But like I think CFC as a club has turned to, we want possession football. We want some attacking, expansive football, and we want it on the men's side, and we want it on the women's side as well. And this is the first time it's like we're 4 games in, we're halfway through the women's season at this point, but like because it's such a short season, like it takes a while for some of these things to come together, and we're seeing, and I'll be curious what happens in the next game, but like we're seeing some really, like right at the end of that Atlanta game, there's some really good attacking stuff being played, even in the first half when it wasn't always coming off. There was some really good attacking movements coming out of that game. And I think the hockey assist at the very end is
evidence of that.
Evidence in real-time evidence and real world, statistical evidence of that taking place.
All right. I'm going to move through some of these thoughts and talking points that we have listed out here. Let's get to our 3 key takeaways, and let's let the listeners get out of here. This will be a little bit slightly longer review than normal, but we have 2 games. So 3 changes. We already talked about this. 3 changes on the night. So that was big that we had the depth to accomplish that and to keep the level high and to get the win. The first half of the Atlanta game was kind of similar to Nashville and Knoxville. We just weren't dangerous enough to get the goals. But again, that mentality is pretty elite in how we're approaching these games, and we're eventually breaking through. Sorry, I'm scrolling through ones that we haven't talked about. So I said this. Okay, watch out for Cresson St. Louis. She's tricky. She's technical. She has an absolute eye for goal, and she's always making that back post run.
Yeah. So here's something interesting that I noticed in this game that was a tactical shift. We kind of changed the typical 3-5-2, 5-3-2 kind of thing that we had going on, and played 2 strikers, and then Cresson is at 10, but like almost like a second striker.
You mean later in the game?
Yeah. Once, I think in the first half we started doing it, but definitely in the second half, where you had like 2 strikers and then you had a second striker type position, like underneath a little bit more. Would come into midfield to collect the ball, but also like play pretty high. And then like Nadia kind of dropped and played alongside Sam Maudsley in kind of a double pivot, which I thought worked really, really well. And it was one of the reasons why we started creating some of these really, really good attacking movements. And it was really interesting to watch Cresson drop in a little every now and then, but then like stay high, so you had kind of a front 3 going on. It was a really, really interesting tactical shift from Randy, and I thought it paid off really well.
Love it. Oh, now my screen's died, of course. At a certain point, Avery Catlett realized they weren't going to stop her dribbling, and I know I mentioned this earlier on, and she turned into number 10, Avery Catlett. How do you feel about her her turning into our number 10?
So I texted you at halftime because she had made just 2 crazy, mazy,
and she wasn't about to stop
slaloming like the whole bit,
all the thesaurus, the whole thesaurus,
just like unreal to just pick up the ball and realize, you know what, I'm just going to take space until you stop me. And oh, by the way, you can try to stop me, but then I'll just dribble around you and continue taking space.
It was awesome.
And she did one of these that she eventually stopped her run and like laid it off, and then stayed in the attacking frame because another teammate would have been covering for her. So she just kind of stayed in to provide an option. And in one, she actually took the ball all the way and then shot and was blocked. And I would have absolutely lost my mind.
You know what it reminded me of? Who it reminded me of? The only CFC player that I could think of that did that regularly on the men's side?
Frankie.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was a great game.
It was a great game from her in particular.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll do my 3 key takeaways first, right? All right. And then you can do yours. I like how I can't speak properly. So my first key takeaway is shoot or shoot. We joked about this in the Birmingham, yelling "pull"
Yeah.
all the time, and we talked about it before, but it bears repeating. Like the goal is the same size for the men's and the women's players, from the men's and women's teams, but the goalkeepers are smaller in women's soccer. Jean's 6'4". Like the average goalkeeper in at least in our division is probably 5'7" on the tall side.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being like generous, there's just a lot more space to be exploited. Not to mention the athleticism differences and whatever else. So if you have somebody, and this is something we didn't really have last year, if you have somebody, and we have Nadia and apparently Sam Maudsley, who I did not know could do this,
and Ava Van Doren, like there's plenty of players.
Yes. It's a good point. My point being is if you have multiple players. Oh, it's a dog scratching. I was like, what is that noise? If you have multiple players who can pull up, who can shoot from distance, and who can make it difficult, it is such a weapon. It's so much bigger of a weapon in women's soccer because bigger goal and shorter players. We didn't have that last year. We have it. I don't know if in spades is quite fair, but it's something we didn't see come to fruition except for the Ava shot. But,
it's a club in the bag this year.
But man, is it good? It's fun, and we have. We can make some progress, and they have to. The thing is, teams have to start being more honest defensively. If you're pulling up and making it dangerous, then
because
they have to come out to you, and you can slip in some balls, and suddenly you get better chances. You're not one dimensional. So love that. Number 2, games are about moments. The Caroline 1v1 save. Avery Engel staying up and winning that header, being the only person to read that. St. Louis going on a dribble, getting fouled for a PK. Nadia hitting that super long free kick, just kind of off the free kick, hitting that super long shot kind of out of nowhere. Sometimes it's team play, like sometimes it is about the team and how well they played as a unit or whatever else. And sometimes players decide games in some of those moments.
Yeah. And
great players make great plays, and I'm really, really happy this weekend about the great plays that were made by these players. It was fucking great. And last thing, you kind of saw in the first half that we played together. We came in ready to both of these games. And I think you saw that it was the first game for both of those teams in the first half. And then in the second half, we weren't able to maintain that same intensity and that same level of performance. We got to be able to maintain that intensity and level of performance for 90 minutes if we're going to be a great team, if we're going to be able to beat a Nashville or a Charlotte or somebody if we somehow sneak into the playoffs. And look, I will also mention that we are still in the hunt for the playoffs. We're not favored, but we're in this. If we keep winning, we keep the pressure on these other teams because they have some tough run-ins as well. About the 70th minute, we're kind of, and in some of these games, we're letting up a little bit, and I want to see that change. So I'm just adding that as kind of like a thing here. I'm happy about our mentality to finish the game. In fact, I'm thrilled with it. It's a giant strength. I'm happy about how we're starting games. We just got a little bit in the middle we got to work on. But man, this team could go somewhere if we could put together a full 90 minutes and not give up a couple goals, in the middle of the second half, as an example, and not give up some big chances in that period. Just maintain that same level of performance throughout the game. We could be a real problem in the playoffs and leading up to the playoffs. All right, Matthew, your turn.
So my first takeaway is set pieces matter. This should not come as any surprise, but look back to Knoxville. We score in the second phase of a set piece. We also give up a goal on a set piece, and technically the penalty as well is a set piece. But you've got 2 set piece goals against Atlanta Fire, one coming in the second phase of it, but it's still basically a set piece goal. And then Maudsley's free kick is just unreal. But we have scored a bunch of goals, especially in these games that have been a little bit harder. We're throwing Birmingham, the outlier, out. We've scored a lot of goals on set pieces in comparison to the total number of goals that we've scored this year. And you hear this sometimes talking about tactics in soccer. Set pieces matter. They can be an equalizer. And I mean a talent equalizer for helping teams that are not as good at one facet of the game. But they're really good on set pieces. It gives them opportunities to be in games and to win games that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily have just through the regular flow of game. We need to be better a little bit defensively, I think, on set pieces, especially in the air. But if we can continue to be overall positive on it, I think it gives us a good chance going forward. to close out the second half of the season. I mentioned this before. The third goal against Atlanta could be a sign that the attack is starting to gel in real ways. I think we talked about like on the men's side how the attack has taken some time to really start to come together. And we got to remember, like this may be half the season completed for the women, but it's also just 4 games. Like it takes, especially with a bunch of new players, like it takes time.
It's also, we are putting unfair expectations on the offense and the gelling because we just don't have time for anything else.
Right.
But it is unfair, and it's.
And my third point is mentality, experience, and toughness can make up for almost anything. And this team has those things
in spades.
Going away has these.
I mean,
things.
what do we talk about in our preview? We have these players with all this international experience, players that have played for their countries. I mean, Nadia and KD and
Croissant,
St. Louis and she who should not be named, all played for their countries. So it's, and you feel that and you see that, and it's not to be trivialized, because in these games where you might have younger players that are just as talented, quote unquote, or potentially more, I wouldn't argue than those 4 players maybe, but like in general might be a little more talented than whatever. Sometimes the experience makes you the better player. So talent isn't the end of it.
I mean, look at Summer. Like how many WPSL seasons has she had now? Like 6, 7. Like she has also like an incredible amount of experience that allows and also has like the physical capabilities, just the motor that helps her keep pushing. She
keeps wearing a lot of ice, by the way, as like an accessory every time she gets out of a game. She's taped up with ice on a different part of her body.
That's good. That's called like the road to recovery.
And I was like, I saw her after the game. I was like, Summer, what are you okay? She's like, I'm getting old.
Yeah, no, this is good.
It's not good. But
icing after games is good.
Oh no, I just don't want her to have to ice so much after games. I would like her to get kicked less. Sorry, but yeah, I do agree with you. The mentality has been elite, and it has made up for any potential differences in talent. I'm not saying there's been a ton of differences in talent, because I think unlike last year, we do match up talent wise like reasonably well against other teams. Like it's a half step down if we're down at all.
Yeah, I think
the mentality has made up for all the talent. Any talent gap there has been, the mentality has made up for it.
So here's the rest of the season, and I think, we've got Nashville away on Saturday the 10th.
Yep, and look, I think I've said on this podcast before. I definitely have. So you guys, my theory. Home game, you always go to the home game. So I'm going to the home game this weekend. I believe there'll be several people at that away game. So definitely a huge away game. And if we can get a point there or potentially a win, we are very much in the, not the driver's seat, but we're in a much better position. That game may decide our playoff hopes, really.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to say that game does decide our playoff hopes. We might not then do something after that, but if we don't get a point out of that game, our playoff hopes are probably done.
So after Nashville, we have Friday the 16th at home against 865 Alliance. Another huge game.
Massive game.
After that,
which I'll be out of town for.
Saturday, June 24. On the road, there's a men's game also at home that night. In Charlotte is Women's Football Club of Charlotte. That's another big game against a good team. And then we'll close in another doubleheader at home against Soda City. And I at this point, I don't think Soda City is very good. So you look at, that's a game we're going to have to get 3 points no matter what. But these 3 games right here, away to Nashville, home against Knoxville, away to Women's Football Club of Charlotte, 3 massive games against 3 very good teams. And, we avoid Charlotte Eagles this year. And so there's nothing we can do about how they do their season. But all we can do is just play the games that are in front of us and try to take as many points as possible and just see where things shake out in the end.
Honestly, I think realistically, if we want any real hope of the playoffs, we need 3 wins and a draw out of these next 4. 3 wins and a draw. That's going to be really hard. We have arguably, and I don't want to belabor the point, and we need to go, but the scheduling this year sucks. It's uneven, and it's a bummer. And man, did we get one of the worst schedules.
I would just love to see, and we've talked about this before, but I just would love to see like
Everybody once.
I think there needs to be more games.
Yes, and we should play everybody once instead of this dumb like we play Knoxville and Nashville twice. Like we should play everybody once, or we should play everybody twice and have more games. This unbalanced thing is crappy.
So I have a proposal as we like wrap up here.
Go.
Number one, the WPSL South region power rankings came out on recording day, and CFC has moved into the top 10.
Hey, can I tell you how I feel about these?
They don't matter.
I feel about them like I feel about NISA and the Times Free Press.
They don't matter.
They suck. They can all go fuck themselves.
Fair enough. That's a little interesting thing. We've been watching the power rankings a little bit over the last few weeks.
We deserve to be in there long before now, and the fact that we're only now in there shows the idiocy of the rankers.
You're salty today. The second is
I'm right.
I have an episode title suggestion
For this one.
Okay. Randy Douglas got on Twitter after the game on Sunday night. I think the club had posted the highlights. Had all 3 goals, and he has a tweet that says, "Welcome to Bangerville."
Deal. Welcome to Bangerville's good.
And that should be the episode title.
Welcome to Bangerville, or Bangers only. Okay, yeah. Okay. Deal. Well, on that note, let's end it here. Matthew, thank you for joining me for these 2 games. Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you later. Peace.